I'm sorry in advance. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Tales Showcase, where we don't believe in coddling children, but we do ask that you try not to kill them. I'm your host, the Watcher of New Earth. So that Venom movie that's coming out, or that's been out for a couple weeks, depending on when I release this video, it sure looks like something. I mean, the Venom design looks cool, appropriate height, looks intimidating, then it opens its mouth for more than a second.
Like a turd in the wind.
Where are you at, Hemingway? Regardless of whether or not that movie is or was any good, today we're going to be looking at Venom vs. Carnage, which is... Look, I'm going to be real with you. This one's tough. This one's really hard to get through, so we're going to get through it together. Let's just get it over with. This is Venom vs. Carnage.
The story opens with Carnage as he turns back and says that he doesn't want to talk about something that he's disgusted by.
This was Carnage's reaction when they asked him if they wanted to be in the Venom movie.
It's revealed that Carnage is arguing with his father symbiote Venom in a room that's on fire for some reason. I don't know, doesn't explain why, and they leave anyway. Who cares? Carnage runs away, insisting that he'll kill Venom if he keeps trying to push the subject. And the dialogue really seems to push the father-son dynamic that defines them. Although, granted, I haven't read a lot of symbiote stuff, but I never felt like the father-son thing was that big for them. But they really seem to be driving it home here, as Carnage says that since his host Cletus Cassidy has no affection for his father, he has no affection for Venom, even going so far as to turn around and saying, "I hate you, Daddy."
Don't call him Daddy. I don't need any more Thanoses. Thanoses? Thani? I don't need any more of what Thanos got earlier this year, alright? Him being daddified is bad enough. I don't need it happening to Venom. Please, I think I've suffered enough.
We get a 2-page spread of Carnage and Venom as it shows off the title, which... Okay, I'm not a designer by any stretch, but little fundamental fact, make sure your font is readable. Seriously, I'm pretty sure this says a child is born, but it reads like a Catalan is bored. So, you know, not off to a great start. Carnage manages to escape, and a guy spots Venom through some binoculars as he's spying on... I want to say woman, but it looks more like decomposing potato sack. I don't really know. I don't mean to body shame, it's just... I can't wrap my mind about what's going on here. Anyway, Carnage soars down to the street before burrowing into the sewer. We then cut to an art gallery where some people are gathered around a painting. That's what's so modern about it, the way it embraces the deep and the shallow.
Sort of like how he's acting deep but coming off really shallow.
In the art gallery, we join a blonde lady whose dress looks like it can't make up its mind on whether or not it's tight or loose, making her seem like a melting candle. The dog the man was holding approaches her, and to scare him away, she... meows?
Did you just make her meow? I don't understand why. Like, why? Like, I get that you're trying to get her to frighten the dog. That makes sense. But you know it's the from cats that frighten dogs away, not the meow. Meows aren't frightening. And I understand that you want to get it across of the cat motif, like, right off the bat. But, like, animals can make more than one sound. Like, cats meow and they hiss. Dogs bark and they can also woof. Pigs can oink and also give you political insight that opens your view to the rest of the world. I mean, that's just fact. It's just fact. Why is it so difficult for you?
Suddenly, there's an explosion at the art gallery. Spider-Man, meanwhile, is getting directions from the creep with the binoculars on where Venom might have gone.
So, the moral of this scene, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that if you're a peeping Tom that's creepily staring at women as they undress, you get to meet Spider-Man and help him out on a case. Right? Do I have that right? Because it looks like that's what you're saying.
The police arrive on scene and find that Carnage caused the explosion by giving birth, which was what he and Venom were debating about earlier. Carnage wants to destroy his offspring as soon as possible, but is exhausted by the process of giving birth, so he chooses one of the police officers to be the symbiote's new host, even though I don't think that that's how symbiotes choose their host.
Don't force children to be what you want them to be. You'll just make them grow up to resent you.
Carnage flees as the police's attention is drawn to the stolen painting, which was stolen by the blonde lady who's in turn revealed to be Black Cat. Venom crawls out of the river, which unfortunately seems to have shrunken his head a tad too much. Back at the officer's home, his pregnant wife mentions that she felt the baby kick today, while he mentions that today he looked into the face of evil.
Do you think this is a who had a cooler day contest? I don't understand.
The officer, named Patrick Mulligan, muses on the thought of his son also being an officer, when suddenly Venom busts in through the window, with Spider-Man not far behind, having followed him from the river. Venom explains that he's not there to hurt the people, but rather to protect the newborn symbiote and raise him since he's the 1000th of their kind. The couple, however, have already headed for the stairs when they're suddenly cut off by Carnage. Guess giving birth isn't that big a deal. Gina, the wife, is thrown down the stairwell, while Carnage grabs Patrick and flees, Venom quick in pursuit. Carnage, however, distracts Venom by calling the webbing on his legs stockings, which causes Venom to get distracted so much that he crashes into the building.
Wow. I feel bad calling the movie version dumb now.
Like a turd in the wind.
Never mind.
Back at the building, it's revealed that Spider-Man managed to catch Gina. However, he's prevented from pursuing as Gina is now in labor.
Okay, so I haven't been near a pregnant woman in November it'll be 21 years. But I'm pretty sure that if your baby's barely starting to kick, or if it's like such an irregular thing that you think it's of note, you're probably not ready to give birth, especially not on the day.
The first issue wraps up with Carnage having caught Patrick and asking who said anything about killing you.
You did. Multiple times.
As the second issue begins, Patrick is somehow now free of Carnage's grasp and is begging for his life, saying that he has a wife and a child on the way.
Yeah, Carnage knows all this. Why do you think he would give a crap? Also, both of you should think that she's dead, considering that neither of you saw Spider-Man save her. Hell, neither of you two should know that Spider-Man was there. I mean, I know it's been a month between these issues being released, but like, we know, and the people in the universe should know, and do you even continuity? We're not even halfway through, guys. This comic. Man, this comic.
Nearby, Black Cat returns the stolen painting to its true owner when she hears Patrick yelling and swings in to help. She's immediately overpowered. Venom catches up, however, and despite Carnage killing absolutely no one yet, he says that the killing stops, to which Black Cat says that she seconds that emotion.
You second that emotion. This comic is so stupid. It doesn't know that the correct phrase is, I second that motion, not emotion.
As the two symbiotes fight and head down to the street, Black Cat and Patrick manage to escape. As they're fighting in the subway, Venom mentions that he's now decided to call the new symbiote Toxin.
Okay, look, if you're gonna steal the naming thing, like, out of nowhere from Monsters, Inc., at least earn it. Venom has not seen the symbiote at all, so, like, why would he think that the name Toxin fits it so well? Just because it's, like, a poison like Venom? I mean, wouldn't it be more appropriate to name it something like Rampage after Carnage? I don't know, and frankly, I don't really care.
To subdue him, Venom throws Carnage under a train. The next day, Patrick and Gina are at the hospital, as Gina admires Spider-Man for dropping off flowers while still managing to go out and fight crime and stop criminals. To which Patrick retorts that, actually, that's what they cops do.
Actually, ass, he saved your wife and child, so maybe a little bit of appreciation. Get off your high horse, step off your ego. This comic tries to make this guy likable. It doesn't work.
Can we take a moment though and appreciate that Spider-Man actually gave a Spider-Man balloon? Just saying, that's kind of funny. Venom keeps watch knowing that Carnage isn't really dead and is sure to return. A couple days later, Mulligan returns to work, but still feels a little off and has seen that he's gotten more athletic prowess. As he's sitting in the car with his partner, it's shown that the symbiote is covering half of his face.
Hey buddy, you got a little slimy, tendril, alien looking thing right there. Just I wanna look that off. A little bit, yeah.
Back at police headquarters, they're studying the footage from the art theft when Mulligan recognizes Black Cat. He tracks down the original artist and gets him to call her. When she gets there, she tries to fight and escape, but his reflexes are too fast. She asks what he actually wants, and he asks for her help, since she's one of them?
Firstly, that's racist. Secondly, that's pretty big talk coming from someone who doesn't have a mouth.
Black Cat is unable to help because this isn't really her specialty. Cletus Cassidy does arrive, however, having killed her artist friend. He turns into Carnage and grabs Mulligan, and the second issue ends as Mulligan transforms, and we get our first real look at the toxin design.
The design is fine. We're now halfway through the book, guys. The design is fine. Let's move on.
The third issue opens with the two symbiotes fighting as Toxin asks who his mother is.
Great question! Martha Stewart, actually. I was surprised myself.
Venom watches as Toxin throws Carnage out the window, and unfortunately it seems like his head is shrinking even more. I don't know how long he'll last. Mulligan freaks out about the symbiote inside him because, that can kind of get on your nerves. He wonders about how he's going to tell his boss because, being an officer, lying is a really slippery slope. But Black Cat asks if his wife knows, and he immediately says that no, and she must never, ever, in a million years, ever, 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 under any circumstances, ever find out.
So, lying at your job to protect your job that you need to support your wife and newborn child, that would be a slippery slope, and you can't do that. You can't do that because you're the pinnacle of humanity. You can't sacrifice your integrity, can you? Not for you, not for your family. That would be wrong. But lying to your wife? That's no problem. Why would that even be a problem? It's not like you have to live with her or anything. It's not your job. It's not your integrity. It's just your wife. I hate this book. I hate this book. And I hate this character, guys. I don't like this. It's a bad comic.
Black Cat tells him that he's too self-righteous and that he needs to get over himself. So congrats! Black Cat, you're now my new favorite character in this issue. The next day we go back with Mulligan and his wife, only to find that they've moved suddenly. Just new apartment. He says that he can't expect Gina to live in the old one, which, makes sense, but this is only supposed to be taking in the span of a week, so, I don't know. Apparently apartment hunting in New York is way easier than I was led to believe. Their families are visiting to meet the new baby, all with weird facial expressions. Someone walks in and tells Mulligan that his father is here, and he drops the baby.
Did you think it was Carnage? I mean, sure, he called himself your father, a couple times during the fight, but, did you instantly forget that you had a real father and just assume that Carnage would be walking through the front door? And if that's what you thought, then why would your expression be geez, did I leave the stove on? So you tell me, what were you thinking during that point? And even if you did, what idiot, the second they're distracted by something, literally drops what they were holding? Especially if that's a newborn child. Idiot.
However, with his new symbiote powers, he's able to grab the baby with ease. His actual dad walks in, who's apparently being played by Tom Selleck, and he hands the baby off to him as he runs out into the rain, claiming that he's not hiding from the symbiote anymore. He manages to track down Cletus Cassidy and they fight. He actually manages to take down Cassidy and almost kills him, but is unable to and flees.
Now, this is after Mulligan's fight with Carnage. He's returned back to his apartment. It's night. He's in bed, and I'd just like to read you what the thought bubbles are. Just because, like, I think if you take this out of the context of the images, it's really stupid. And I would argue that a lot of this book is like that, but I think this in particular. So let me just... Later, I lie in bed, not sleeping, not even close. I try to make sense of what's happening to me, but nothing makes sense. Except this child, protecting him from harm. But what if I'm the very thing he needs protecting from? So I get that what they were going for is like this stream of consciousness kind of thing, and that's fine. It's just he has a really dumb stream of consciousness. It's just like little sentences that are saying what's happening, and they give like no real insight into what he's thinking, except that he's not sure of himself and of the monster that's inside him. But just a few pages ago, he decided that he was going to embrace the symbiote. Remember? He ran outside, he left his Tom Selleck father as opposed to his Carnage father, and he was like, I'm embracing this animalistic urges, and I'm a symbiote, and I'm gonna kill Carnage. And so the only thing that we learned from him is that he clearly doesn't remember what he did earlier that day. So, character development?
Also, at the end of that scene, Mulligan just stares out the window and says that he and his wife don't talk about monsters. Even though that's like 80% of what their conversations have been. Anyway, Venom and Carnage have met up because apparently after witnessing their first fight, Venom agrees that Toxin is just too dangerous to keep around and has agreed to side with Carnage to destroy him.
You know, I'm so glad Venom is just this solid character that clearly knows what he wants and doesn't like just flip on things willy-nilly. Also, you say that Toxin almost killed him, but he threw him out a window. You threw him under a train, so you know.
We then see a bank robbery, although it says there are 4 hostages, even though there are clearly more. Comic, if you're trying to drive me insane, I assure you, you will, and it's not gonna look pretty, so let's not play, alright? Toxin arrives to stop it, finally introducing himself as Toxin.
Wow. It's so great that the Toxin symbiote is finally embracing the name his grandfather gave him. Even though he's never met him, and neither of them were there when Venom told Carnage the name. Just layers and layers of stupidity. It's heartwarming. It really is.
Toxin threatens to eat the robber's brains, and they see his police badge sticking through the symbiote suit, and says that because of that, he can't.
So the symbiote suits are apparently skin tight. Venom has a lot to worry about.
The 4th and, thankfully, final issue begins as Toxin says that they're under arrest. Spider-Man arrives and congratulates them on a job well done. Mulligan is back at home as he's staring at his baby and pondering just how scary the world is. Gina's right there next to him and tries to reassure him, while simultaneously being possessed by a Joker demon.
No wonder he's afraid. I'd be scared if my wife grew a Joker smile the hell out of nowhere.
Mulligan and Black Cat attend the artist's funeral when Venom and Carnage suddenly crash it, looking to kill Toxin. Spider-Man's on the other side of town when its Spidey sense alerts him and he suddenly swings into action. A little too excitedly maybe, seeing as his leg is almost piercing his shoulder.
Also, I don't want to be that guy, but Spidey sense can't detect symbiotes. The first issue of this miniseries actually made that very clear, so this is all implausibly dumb.
Venom and Carnage beat on the young symbiote, all the while bickering back and forth like an old married couple. Carnage doesn't understand one of Venom's references, and Venom says that he forgot that Carnage was an autodidact. Carnage corrects him and says that he's actually self-taught.
Okay, that was funny.
Black Cat tries to reason with them when Spider-Man arrives, and Okay, judging by the art, either Spider-Man has grown at least 5 feet, or this mausoleum is for a bunch of Smurfs. The three begin to duke it out, with the two symbiotes eventually overpowering Spider-Man. That is until Toxin arrives, completely roided out.
Can we still see the police badge, though?
The older symbiotes are then beaten mercilessly by their young offs. Nah, just kidding. He hits them once or twice and then they run away. Quick tip for all you aspiring writers. Making your hero only land 1 or 2 hits on his villains doesn't make the hero look cooler, it makes the villains look lamer. Toxin then reverts back to Mulligan, and he gets a brief pep talk from Spider-Man, who tells him that while life is crazy now, he has to learn to work with it, and make sure that there's a balance in between the hero side and the regular side. Back at home, Mulligan once again looks at his child, pondering how his life has changed, only to horrifyingly realize that a severed finger that fell into his pocket from the cemetery is now being chewed on by his infant. Understandably appalled, he grabs the finger and throws it into the river. However, he takes this as a lesson that his 2 lives can no longer coexist, and decides to run away from home. As he's walking away, all sad and heroic-esque, I guess, he claims that he now must model his life after Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's so great that he's finally taking Spider-Man's advice and deciding to live his life by his standards. Even though Spider-Man told him to find balance, as opposed to just abandoning one part of his life. You know. But, you know, who needs lessons in stories, really? Just... Peter Milligan and Clayton Crane. Your comic's bad and you should feel bad!
I mean, honestly, this comic is awful. The writing, okay, to its credit, the dialogue sounds like what people could and do sound like. But the sequence of events is just, it's maddening. We join Patrick Mulligan as this strong, heroic cop figure, and then he gets psychologically broke down by the symbiote. But then he gets built back up again out of nowhere, only to be torn down again and then leave his family right at the end. For no apparent reason. Look, I'm all for character growth in stories. I really am, especially since I don't care about any of these characters. But it has to make sense. This is happening within a week. No one reacts like this within a week unless they're reading this stupid comic and going through a manic episode. And story-wise, why is Black Cat in this story? Black Cat has no business in this story. She doesn't contribute anything. I mean, sure, she's the one with the friend who dies and then they go to the funeral and that's the ending of the comic. But, I mean, couldn't that easily have been just like some random cop who was Patrick's friend? Just nothing to the story. Completely pointless, stupid. And, oh, the art. Oh, good lord, the art. When it's the symbiotes, it's great. Sometimes. But when it's people, they just seem to have this sickly look to them, like their skin is sticking to their muscles. It's weird and unnatural and makes things look creepy. And the expressions on most of the people are so off. They just look like they're ready to eat your face. It's not a good sign when the regular people in your story are more horrific than the monsters. This is a little unrelated, but the author of this book is called Peter Milligan. Isn't it a little suspicious that the main character of this that gets superpowers is named Patrick Mulligan? Look, I'm not saying this is necessarily wish fulfillment, but it does a pretty good impression of it. Oh, and on the subject of Patrick Mulligan, here's a little spoiler alert for anybody who cares. But Patrick Mulligan actually learns how to control the toxin symbiote eventually, and then dies off screen. Literally, the next time we see the toxin symbiote, it's just like, oh wow, it's sure great that we got the symbiote. And then it goes back to Eddie Brock, the first Venom host, the one that anybody cares about. So, you know, it's almost like this was worth nothing. We gained nothing, and anything that was garnered from here was just lost in a couple years anyway. So congratulations, you made me lose my mind for nothing. I hate this book.
And it's really quite confusing because both creators have done good work both before and after this. So why did this turn out so bad? It's like what's the phrase for something that you really don't want to see, kind of disgusts you, gross you out, but is really, really insanely stupid at the same time? It's like
Like a turd in the wind.
As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. This is the Watcher of New Earth, signing off. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Tales Showcase, where... Wait. Oh, jeez. Is this the end of the video? Crap. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, I guess.